Mama, have you ever felt stretched and not in a way that's draining, in a way that's growing you into the woman that you're meant to be? Today, I sat down with Veronica Truesdale, and she wears a lot of hats. She's a pastor's wife, a mama, a federal employee, and the owner of a successful tax business. And we had a real conversation about the spiritual side of business, why money is really just a tool, and why time is your most valuable resource. So, if you've been in a season of feeling stuck, comparing yourself to others, or questioning if you can really create change in designing a life that you want, this episode is your reminder that you can grow, you can stretch, and you can change your situation one step at a time. Hey, mamas, welcome back to Mamas Building Businesses. I'm Erica, the founder, and I am sitting down today with Veronica Truesdale. Veronica, thanks so much for doing this.
Yes, I'm so glad to be here and connecting with your community today.
Awesome. Awesome. So tell us a little bit about you, who you are as a woman, as a mom, as a business owner, and what's going on currently in your life.
Being a mom is probably at the forefront of everything I do. But, beyond being a mom of three children, I am a wife. I am also human resource director for the Department of the Navy. And in addition to that, I also work my own tax business as well. So you know, I'm multifaceted. I have lots of things going on, but for me, I really enjoy filling my time with meaningful things. And so, even beyond that, I'm a lover of books. So for years, I hadn't been able to like read a lot of books, right? Because the books that I was reading was, Tiki Tiki Timbo. Those were the kinds of books that I was reading. But now I've really been able to get into, my kids are older. So it's a lot easier for me to find the personal time. And so that's where I kind of am in my own journey right now with being a mom, is realizing like that personal time for me is so much more valuable than I even realized it was. So that's kind of where I'm at. I am trying to do everything I can to help build a successful future for my children, but finding those moments that are just my own personal thing. So between reading, writing, journaling is being like very cathartic for me, just getting what I have out. So
I love
yeah.
that you said that because I'm a huge proponent that the more we pour into ourselves, the better we're able to show up for the people that we love. And I think that sometimes we have that mom guilt that
Mhm.
like, oh, I shouldn't take this time for myself because
Yeah.
XYZ. But we're able to show up better for our partners, for our kids. I mean, really for everybody who comes in contact with us.
Mhm.
But I know that when I take time to pour into myself and have those moments where I'm like, okay, I need a little bit of a reset, I have a lot more patience when it
Yes.
comes to my
Yeah.
children. Um,
Exactly. And that's one thing that I've come to, it took time to get there, right? Like I said, my oldest is 13, my youngest is 8. So it's been a journey, and it's several milestones that have had to happen for me to finally be like, okay, it's okay to take a moment, right? First child comes along, and I was very much like, I'm never leaving his side. Nobody else can watch him. Second child came along, and I started to back away. But the third child, I started to feel more comfortable in my own skin and the community that I had built around me to help me to kind of cultivate the village that I need. And so it's allowed me now at this place in my life to feel like, okay, it's okay to step away and do things just for me. Like, even I would have never years ago taken just an all girls trip, right?
mhm.
Like that would have felt very selfish to me years ago. And now it's like, I'm deserving of those things. I work hard. I'm deserving to have moments to just myself, like pour what I can. And you're right, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? I know it's a very overused thing to say, but I had to, through my journey, realize like my cup wasn't being filled because I was giving so much to others. And so now it feels really good to feel a little more settled in who I am and recognizing my own needs and just kind of walking that out in my life.
And it's definitely easier once your kids get a little more independent.
Yeah.
Mine are
Yeah.
16 and 22. And to be honest with you, I feel like an empty nester. Just like the comparison in the time that we spend together compared to when they were
Hmm.
little. I mean, my daughter, she's out on her own and she's married
Hmm.
already. So she's
Oh,
really out on her own. So you do wear a lot of hats. And I think one of the things that is so incredible about you is your husband is in ministry. And the reason why I think that's so incredible is because, in my opinion, I grew up in church, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that you have this added element of supporting a lot of other people's emotions within that community. And and so with that being said, how do you like balance or compartmentalize like all these different pieces of yourself so that you're able to support other people in their emotions and their business and everything that they're doing while not absorbing it necessarily, if that makes sense.
so, it sounds very cliche, but like lots of prayer, because I definitely am an empath. So I am gifted from God to see what somebody else is going through and feel those things, right? And so that can be, which means that you can feel a lot of heaviness from what somebody else is going through. And so I have had to learn how to, exactly what you said, compartmentalize things, right? And when I'm in the moment of something, I'm able to feel and breathe what I am, then learning how to leave it where it is, right? Like learning how to not carry everything with you. And so you're right, like my community that I've, between my husband, my mother, my friends and my family, um, I have been able to just be in the moment that I need to be in. And one of the things I think that a lot of people don't realize is like you cannot um always like take on everything. So yes, I wear a lot of hats, but I'm also a believer in not stretching myself to a place where I break, right? Like I think it's important to stretch, it's important to grow, but it's stretching and growth, it's not breaking. And so if at any point I feel like I'm getting to a place where I'm about to break or I've taken on more, I've learned the art of no, right? And so even when it comes to, like my husband being a pastor, we have lots of things that we are always involved in and having to do. But even before he stepped into that role, we both agreed, yes, God comes first, but we have a marriage that we have to continue to cultivate. And so we're going to make that a priority, right? And even when it comes to kids, a lot of things that people, if you listen to a lot of children that that grew up in the church and have pastors as parents, some of them will kind of say, like, hey, we always felt like we took a back seat to the ministry. And so I have always, in between me and my husband, we always make sure that my kids, our marriage, our life, right? Like I believe that the word says charity begins at home. That's my first ministry. That's what I believe. And so those are the ways that I try to make sure like I am being true to myself is by living and walking out what God has already told me. Like there are things, yes, the ministry is important, but I got to make sure that I'm ministering to what God has cultivated in me. And I believe that that is my children. I believe that that is a true ministry in loving and caring on my family. I believe it is a true ministry in me loving and caring for myself. And so just recognizing those things is what helps me to take a step back at times and just say, you know what? I have to care for not just my physical being, my mental, my spiritual and emotional, um, and just learn the power that I hold to kind of really just massage what's going on around me. And so the art of the no, making sure that I'm not putting myself to a place where I'm going to break, and then just kind of relying on everybody that I have. And I have a great support system they're always there for me, and that's just vital. Like between my mom, my nieces and my nephews, even my church family, my friends, like the amount of love and support that I have around me to help me to be who I am, even on my job, right? Like I just it's not luck, it's a blessing, right? That I just have what I have. But it takes a lot of work to get there and to find those people that truly have your best interest at heart.
Yeah, I'll tell you a common theme in like all the conversations I've been having the last couple of weeks is just the importance of community. And it's, having people that you can depend on, but it's also the energy that you surround yourself with. You know what I mean? Or is it people that are uplifting you? And you talked a lot about the power of no, and I'm a big believer of boundaries. I think that is for me, it was the most difficult lesson that I learned
Yes.
when I got into
Mm,
business because I really wanted to just be everything to everyone. And I think that came from a lot of places. I think it came from, wanting to have this incredible business with great service, but I also think that part of it came from like a place of desperation,
mm,
being afraid like if I didn't do everything that I was going to not have enough. And that's like a
yeah.
lot of mindset work, right? And a lot of just like our spiritual journey too is like just trusting that you will always have enough. But when it comes to boundaries, when you started your tax business, because you have a full-time, very full career,
Yeah.
and you have this incredible tax business, is that something that you felt you needed to like get stronger at, or were you always really good at boundaries, or
So I am good at boundaries in certain situations, is what I come to realize, right? Like there are some things where I'm like, absolutely not, you're never gonna get me to do
Mhm.
those kinds of things. And then there are areas I really resonated when you said, like when you started your business, you wanted to be all things to everybody, right? And what I know to be true now is that's not possible, and
Mhm.
that you have to figure out what you want to hone in on and be great at that, right? And so I had to learn to set certain boundaries, both in my career and my tax business, right? Because of the role that I hold, being a human resource director, it does involve long hours at times, right? And so I had to learn to set the boundary of, hey, these are the hours that I'm going to work. I don't mind staying later every now and then, but it's not going to be a regular thing. And I did do it for years. And what suffered was family, self, right? And I eventually had to set the boundary and be like, no, I've got to take care of myself. And it was amazing switching over into a new career, like what it did for me mentally. And then even physically, like within like a month and a half, I had lost weight just by setting boundaries because I was able to start doing the things that I know I needed to do to take care of myself. And so I didn't even really work out, but my whole psyche, my internal compass just changed, and my body immediately, you know, um, just responded to that. And so that taught me a very powerful lesson in taking care of myself and setting clear boundaries, right? Like it's not okay to try to be and do everything. And sometimes you just have to be willing to say no. And I think we have a misconception that saying no is going to negatively impact us in our careers. But what I think I have found is that people respect you more when you're willing to tell them no, and your no doesn't always have to follow with a reason, because no is a complete sentence. And so I think people, it's the whole thing, like if you're always saying yes, then you become the person that everybody comes to, and then you're never the person that anybody praises. But the person that is willing to set the boundary and then step in and do things when they need to be done, somehow that's the person that everybody's like, oh, they're amazing. It was that one time that they did something. And so I had to realize like I was being everything on my job. And it was like you wouldn't always get the benefit and value. And you would see somebody else come in that was like, nope, this is my job. This is what I'm gonna do. And so I started living by, I don't live to work. I work to live. Like that is my motto. Like I'm not I'm not living just so I can go to work. My job provides the life that I want, right? Like that's what I'm there for. So that is how I've had to like kind of recalibrate my mind, my mindset. So
And it is a true recalibration. And I really appreciate that you touched on um, that people respect you more when you set boundaries, because that I would say that specific piece was kind of the most crazy in a lot of ways lesson that I learned in business, because um, you really teach people how to treat you. You teach people
mhm,
how to respect your time. We've all heard like if you give yourself 2 hours to do laundry, it's going to take you 2 hours to do laundry. If you give yourself 30 minutes to do it, it's
yeah,
going to take 30 minutes, right? Like sans the actual time of the machines.
yeah,
But we have this ability to expand and shrink how long things take based on the perceived time that we have available
mhm,
for them. And what I noticed is that when I really started setting boundaries and being more that like I started holding my time as more value, other people did as well. And so when I was having conversations with people, and I'm a talker, obviously, why I'm
yeah,
doing this, um, a conversation that would normally take an hour would take 10 minutes because they would come in and get to the point because they thought they had limited time with me, right? Because I
mhm,
set this precedent. And even in like building out my own team, one of the things that I had to teach my team because I had just learned it is, if you have a call with somebody for 30 minutes and that's what's on the schedule, and you end it and say, you end and say something along the lines of like, okay, well, it's been great. I have to move on to the next thing, and you set that precedent, like the time's up. And I had somebody say to me, well, if you don't have anything to do after, you're lying. And I'm like, no, 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 you're not. Because meetings are not the only thing you have to do. Like you
yes.
have stuff to take care of when you get off that call. You
Yeah,
don't have to say you're going to meet somebody. Like this was our allotted time. I need to move on to the next task, right? And when you set that precedent with people in your life, and it's different how you set it and what that looks like, right? Depending on the
mhm,
relationship. But people have no choice but to respect it. Like you're literally teaching them how to value you and your time.
yeah, yeah. I love that. So it just brought to mind like um, what people don't realize. Like people think that money is valuable, and it's not money. It's right. Like you can always get money back, right? Plenty of people gain and lose millions of dollars, but you will never get your time back. Like that is fleeting and it goes, like it's there and it's gone. And so I think that that's what what we're talking about now is like we're having to realize the time value, right? It's not, money, like I said, it'll come and go, but you'll never be able to replay a moment, go back and do something. It's whatever the time is in front of you is what it is, and then it's lost. So you have to protect that. Like that's what you're protecting. That's what you're chasing. You're chasing your freedom in time. Freedom in time can bring you freedom and money, right? Like,
Well, it gives you
yeah.
choice, right? It gives you choice on how to spend your time.
Mhm.
Okay, so I want to sit on this for a little bit on the money time conversation. This is not where I thought our conversation would go, but I love it so much because I have been, so I listen to a lot of business coaches and podcasts that teach about business and abundance from biblical principle, right? And I'm not talking about like prosperity preachers, like I know that kind of gets people bent out of shape sometimes.
Yeah.
But truly like what we value and what is true wealth. Because I think that our society has said, well, wealth is money, but
Yeah,
it's really not.
it's
Wealth
not.
is, are you aligned with your purpose? Are you
Hmm.
spending your time with things that fill you up? And those can be things that make you money, right?
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
they can be
That's
things
the
that make
key.
you money. And I had shared with you and anybody who's probably listened to me before knows, I had my daughter really young, and so I was very scared of being a statistic. And so I spent the majority of my 20s and even some of my early 30s where all of my goals, all of like money guided all of those decisions, truly.
Hmm.
Like I was chasing a bigger paycheck. I was, all of these things because I was so like my kids will never go without, you know? And I had a great village. I didn't have financial help from, the other side of the family, but so I had this like they're never going to go without. And so
Yeah.
to me, like I was in that mindset of like money, 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 and not from a greed perspective, but just for like taking care of my kids.
You gotta live. You gotta live.
You got to live. But that drastically shifted in my 30s where, I started getting into personal development and I
Mhm.
started really like build it when I really started building my own business and just recognizing like, oh, number one, money doesn't have to be as hard to earn as our society makes us feel. Like we are really conditioned in our society that like you have to trade your time for every dime. And so you have people that I read this book. Have you ever read The 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss?
No, I haven't. Mm-mm.
Okay, so he wrote it a while ago. It's a really good book. It's just about how to be more efficient across the board. And
Mhm.
in it, he says and I read this probably, I don't know, 8, 9 years ago, but he says most people would see a job listed for $20 an hour and be like, oh, that's decent money, like that's good money, that's decent money. He said, but if you knew that you were going to die next week, would you be willing to give up an hour of your life for $20? And
No.
it like I felt like my brain exploded and all the light bulbs went off. and
Yeah, that's a
and
good one.
it's not from a place of judgment for anybody who is working where they're trading their time for money. It's just the recognition that like our time is so incredibly valuable when you look at it from that perspective. And then it becomes, okay, how can I provide for my family and build a legacy in the most efficient way so I still have time to enjoy it?
Yes. And I think that's like the key thing. Like I wanted everything that I'm doing so that I can enjoy my time. Right. Like, and that's why I said, like, I am not here to live to work. Like that. I don't want my life shouldn't be about working. And I don't even think that that is from a biblical standpoint, I don't believe that that is what God intends for our lives to be either, right? I definitely think that the Bible says that if a man doesn't work, he shouldn't eat. I 100% believe in that. I believe in the Proverbs 31 woman who knows how to start a business and make it profitable. But I also believe that God says that we should be able to enjoy things right here. And he intends for us to enjoy life right here. And enjoyment is not stepping and just constantly working, right? There is a vast, beautiful earth that we should be exploring and seeing and spending time with our family and our children. And so just learning to recognize that my time is what I want to take back. I think that that is something that has been shaping me now for quite some time. I understand that that's more valuable to me than the dollars that I earn. And, um, I absolutely believe we should be doing things if we are going to, you know, trade our time for money. We should try to do things that we are enjoying, right? That we find value in it, right? Because people can definitely tell you're passionate about something, especially, right? And so if you are passionate about it and you're doing it and you're making money at it, I think that that is just what, takes somebody from good to great, right? Like that's what helps them to get there better because they're not just doing something for the dollar figure of it. They actually enjoy doing what they're doing and they happen to make money from it. And so, that's where, for me, that's where life kind of has started to end up. I just recognize that my time is what I need that time. And the time value is so much more important to me now.
It is, it is. And the more time and the more resources you have, being if those resources are time, money, whatever, um, it also gives you more availability to impact people, which is
Mhm.
really truly what we were created for. Like, you
Yes.
know what I mean? And like you're saying, enjoy life. Well, when you're impacting people, that doesn't mean you're being lazy. It doesn't mean,
Hmm.
because you enjoy what you're doing doesn't mean you're being lazy. It doesn't mean you're not working
Yep.
hard. And I I think that because we live in a society that preys on like fear and division in a lot of
Hmm.
ways, that there has been this sort of inference of like either or in every situation, right?
Yeah.
So like hard work can't be enjoyable. And it's like, no,
Yes.
like we work hard, but we work hard doing something that means something to us. And so therefore we enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like I spend
Yes.
a lot
Yeah.
of
No, I think you're
time
right.
making content, but it's because of the impact I want to have. It's a lot of work, and sometimes I'm tired, and sometimes I don't feel like it. And, sometimes I was telling you, like, I didn't feel great today.
Mhm.
And so, but I genuinely enjoy it. It's still hard
Yeah.
work, but I genuinely enjoy it. And it's because I believe that it's aligned with my purpose,
Yeah.
and I'm making an impact, and that's the goal, right? And so, I I love that. So, speaking of time,
Hmm.
because you have a business that is extremely uh I know you work all year round because you offer a
Hmm.
lot of
Hmm.
services for people,
Yeah.
and you do an incredible job of like helping people just plan for taxes, right? Like throughout
Hmm.
the year so it's not a stress. But you do have a business that gets massively busier
Yeah.
during a specific time of year.
Hmm.
How do you, like, with all of the things you balance, how do you prep your family, your kids, the people closest to you
Yeah.
for this like massive difference in scheduling and time commitment during that time of year?
Yeah. So, that is a really good question. And I am lucky enough, like, I really do have great children and a great, great husband. And my kids are just so excited. And I will tell you, like, my children's excitement for my business it just makes me feel very just very loved, right? Like they're just excited to say that their mom has her own business, right? And so and my kids are older, right? So they can understand a little more about what's going on. But it helps that I do work virtually, right? So I'm not, without seeing them or without in their eyes reach at any moment in time. But we definitely have a schedule. So I typically go to work earlier when the peak season is on my actual 9 to 5. I go to there earlier so I can be off earlier, and then I work all of my tax business in the evenings. And then I do give myself a cutoff time. So typically my cutoff time is so that I can at least have time with the kids and my husband, eat dinner, spend some time together prior to them going to bed. And then once they're in bed, then I get back on and I will do some more. And then my Saturdays are pretty much filled, and a portion of my Sundays are filled with doing that. But then I also give myself set those boundaries, right? Like I'm going to get up early, I'm going to do it between these hours, and then I'm going to have the rest of my Saturday afternoon to cultivate what I really enjoy doing, which is spending time with my husband and my kids. And so we all kind of understand that that is my schedule, and we plan what we're going to do around that. And you're right, like between January and pretty much the first part of April, because by April 15th, most people have already, they want their money back. um, Most of them are already finished. So by the time that comes in April, like things start to kind of settle back out. And then I'm just doing more of the regular kind of cleanup things. But it's been helpful, like having conversations, explaining what's going on to my children so that they understand. And I'm a big proponent when it comes to kids, like you talk to them at their level, but you don't talk to them as if they're incompetent. Right. And so I don't tell my children every single detail of my life, but I definitely sit down and have a conversation with them that they can understand and they can ask me questions and we can kind of have open lines of communication. So when I first started this, that was one of the things, okay, like this is going to be really busy for me. I normally take you all, but your dad's going to start taking you all to school. He's going to be picking you up. And then, I'll be at home, but I may not be able to interact with you during this period. But mom's going to make sure that I'm not elusive and that you're not just not being able to see me. So I think that that was kind of we had those types of conversations, and just made sure that they understood like if I'm busy, if I'm locked away in my office, it's not I'm locked away from you. I'm doing something to build the future, right? Like, and so we have an understanding of that. So, and that's just like I just really believe in just having conversations with your kids and not leaving them wondering or guessing about things and giving that open line to me. So,
That's incredible. I'm a big proponent of open communication with kids too. Like again, like not that they need to know every detail
mhm,
of adult business, but when we are able to have communication with our kids and let them know what's going on and the why behind things,
yeah.
even with like when my kids were younger, if they would like get in trouble, I was not really the parent that just like I mean, don't get me wrong, I was definitely the parent who yelled once in a while, but but I wasn't the parent who like yelled and then that was it. We just acted like nothing happened. I was the parent who like yelled but then like when everybody calmed down let them know, have a conversation about
Yeah.
what was wrong, why that was the reaction, and that I still love them, right? And so
Yeah.
and I think that's important like when you're building a business too, because we don't want our kids to feel like abandoned in any way. And that
Hmm.
was for me, that was a big wake up call with my marketing agency because I would work so many hours and I would be so stressed and my son would be like, "Are you ever going to get off your computer?" And it would just make me feel so guilty. You know,
Yeah.
I was able to show up to everything, like I was showing up to all the sports events, but I was also the person who would like run to the car with my phone and my computer if I needed to hop
Hmm.
on a call. And which is like a whole nother thing, right? Like being able to really be present in the moment, which comes back to boundaries. Like you have a cutoff for your business. And so when you go out and you spend time with your husband and your kids, you're able to be present in that moment because just physically being there, if you're still, your mind is somewhere else or, and it's always a work in progress, right? Like
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
always
yeah.
doing that.
It's just not that there aren't times where things will come up where I don't have to like jump in and stuff like that. But for the most part, like I try to be very clear. And, even the relationship that I have with my tax clients, I am not above letting them know, like, hey, I'm not going to be available during this time, right? Like, or hey, I'm in the middle of doing something. I will call you when I have a moment that I can actually talk with you. And it's a little easier when it comes to the tax business, right? Because you are talking about sensitive information. So they don't want you talking to them at a sporting event about their
Right,
taxes,
right.
right? So for me to be able to be like, hey, I'm in the middle of something right now. I'll call you around this time. And I have not had a client that hasn't said, especially if I say, like, I'm doing something with my family or I'm doing something with my kids. I have not had clients say, no, I'm more important. I always have clients that be like, oh, no, handle what you need to handle and just call me back. And them understanding that, I have a life outside of just that. Um, is why I want to try to, I cultivate the relationships with my clients, right? Like I don't just want to, yes, I'm filing your taxes, but I enjoy, watching them and their families grow on Facebook and being able to interact. And it's not just, I'm just pushing the numbers for you, right?
Right, like a
Uh,
quick service, like a one and done, and having
yeah.
that relationship. And it's important to establish that,
Hmm.
especially in in your business because of like the long-term retention, right?
Yes.
Because then it's like when you first start your business, you're in hustle mode, like looking for
Hmm.
clients. But as you build that up, you can kind of take the foot off the gas at some
Yeah.
point. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because you have built that up. And I think that's another like um big misconception. So we get a lot of people in our community that are like women who are just trying to step out and make money online for the first time. And I feel like there's so many people on social media that are like passive income, passive income, passive income. And it's like, yes, it does exist, but it's a difference. Like you're either gonna hustle a whole bunch in the beginning
Hmm.
or you're gonna hustle consistently forever. It's not some magic trick where money comes in and you don't work.
Yeah. Like, I, it is hard to watch sometimes because yes, I guess every now and then somebody just kind of they can get rich quick, right? But that's not the average person. And I think that we tend to sell people pipe dreams
Hmm.
instead of having the real conversation. And it takes a lot to own your own business, right? It takes a lot to, um, you have to have a hustle mentality for sure, right? Because it's yours and nobody's going to take care of it the way you're going to take care of it. But just the idea that, everything is tried to be a get rich quick scheme, like, it's just not the way it's not the way it works. And then the honest truth is if it's gonna be that quick to get it, sometimes it's just that easy to lose it as well. Right. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. I I love that you said that because it is true. It's in I'm a big believer in abundance. I'm a big believer in what people can create, but it's this idea that like there has to be input for output. Like don't let anybody sell you something where it's like, "Oh, you're going to buy this course and you're going to, make $10,000 next week, you know?" And it is a lot. It's a lot to have your own business. And I I think that especially with social media, comparison's hard because social media a lot of times is a highlight reel. And I'm guilty of it too. I try to be better and I try to be more transparent like when things aren't going right. But um it's just human nature. Like we
Mhm.
share when it's something for people to clap about. We don't always share
Yeah.
when it's something that like maybe we could use some feedback on, right?
Yeah.
And because of that though, I think that a lot of times when we get stuck in any type of comparison, the thing that we don't take into account is like I might be in chapter 3 and I'm comparing myself to somebody who's like in chapter 39, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's like you don't see all of those things that
That
they
led to where they're at. Yeah. Yeah. Like so it's just funny that you said that because like I I found myself in that spot a couple years ago, like definitely watching what others were doing and feeling like I was not measuring up. And what I realized is that there are different units of measure.
yeah.
And so if my unit of measure is a ruler, I cannot measure myself against somebody that is measuring in grams, right? Like it's just like they're apples and oranges. And so I have to only measure myself against my measuring stick. And once I, started to realize that, one thing I did end up doing was like just completely detoxing from social media, and detoxing in the sense of like looking at it from a lens, and this is transparency, from a lens of envy, because that's what you end up doing. Like you're envying what somebody else has, how somebody else has reached a certain level. And so I had to like completely like, okay, I've got to stop looking and watching others from a place of envy and look at it from a place of inspiration. And then coming to an understanding of what you just said, like they're not showing you the full breakdown of how they got to where they are. They're showing you, I love that, a highlight reel. Like that's all that they're giving you access to. And so just realizing like my measuring stick is my measuring stick, right? Yours is yours, however you need to measure yourself. Don't try to apply my rule sets to you and vice versa. Because if the word already tells us that we are unique, we are peculiar, like I'm my own person. I will never be like somebody else. So I can't expect for anything that I do to be measured against their life, their rules, their way of doing things. And so you have to create your lane and stay there, right? Like, and that's one thing, like I will try to tell people, like, stay in your lane. Like I can't run your race for you, and you can't run my race for me. I may be running right now, probably a 15, 16-minute mile. There's no way I'm going to try to compete in your race. Especially if you're like under 9 minutes, I'm setting myself up for failure trying to even
Hmm.
compete against you. And so I think that is what we do. We set our, like, nobody else has told us to measure ourselves against somebody else. We do that to ourselves. And we have to learn how to break that bond in our mind that says, I got to keep up with the Joneses. I've got to be like what somebody else is. And so that's the moment like I had to realize like I was envying what others had, and not in a way that I was wishing bad, but just in a way of like, why not me?
Hmm.
And then be like, wait a minute, that wasn't my purpose. That's not the way God wants me to move. And that's okay. Well, how am I supposed to? And that's where I'm at now. I've found my lane, I've found my vein, and I'm comfortable with where I'm at. And it feels so much better. Like even um, shying away from posting on social media, right? Like it is now that I feel more comfortable in who I am and I'm not watching what others are doing and just paying attention to what I'm supposed to be doing, it becomes easier to put yourself out there. It becomes easier because you can just show up as your authentic self by trying to show up like somebody else. And then it doesn't feel, it feels odd because you're not being who you were designed to be. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, oh my gosh, you really dropped so many gems there because I will tell you, I was laughing at myself the other day because I was editing one of these videos, and when I have conversation with somebody, like it's so natural, right? And I'm just like naturally a very conversational person, but then I record like the little 30-second clip for the beginning afterwards. And I was like, I had told my brother helps me with editing, and I was like, it sounds like two different people talking because when I do the 30-second clip and I'm staring, I still getting comfortable in front of a camera, you know what I mean, and being like my natural self. And I'm like, I have like a customer service voice on in in the 30-second clip. And it takes a lot of self-awareness. Like even what you were saying, like recognizing that you were having that comparison and that it did come from a place of envy. And it wasn't anything it wasn't like any malice or any,
Yeah.
anything like that. It's just that feeling of like, why not me? And one of the things that I have really harped on since deciding to build this community and step away from my marketing agency is entrepreneurship is such a spiritual journey. Like it will stretch you so much. And I think there's a big like when people don't realize what it takes to start a business or run a business, they think it's all skill. Like it's all like, oh, well, if I learn these business skills. And it's like, no, you have to stretch yourself so much. You have to break your own pride and ego so many times. You have to be willing to be self-aware, and you really have to be willing to take responsibility for everything, and
I
not from a
agree.
place of like beating yourself up, but more so from a place of I can only control me. And
Yes.
so I need to, if I can't change the situation, I have to figure out how to change the situation, right? Like it's on you, because if you build a business and you're basing all of the outcomes, the wins, the highs, the lows, everything on like pointing at somebody else, or it's somebody else's responsibility, or it's the economy, or it's this or it's that, the problem with that is not only like emotionally will you just completely drain yourself, but also you give up your power to create. You know what I mean? You
Mm-hmm.
give up your power. I think that is the hardest thing for me when I hear people, and I'm far from perfect. I try to catch myself anytime I make an excuse. You know what I mean? It's our default to like make an excuse when something doesn't work. And but when you hear people and they have like so many gifts that they could share, and it's just like excuse after excuse, like I don't have time or this or that, and or the kids have sports, and it's like their excuses all have to do with these external things. I just want to be like, you're giving up all of your power. Like you
Yeah.
have the power to create the life you want, the business you want. Like
Mm-hmm.
stop giving, if you're not ready to create it right now, that's fine. Like be okay with that. But
Be
don't give
okay
up
with
your
it.
power. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like don't give up your power. It's not your son's baseball coach who scheduled practice that's keeping you from creating a business or sharing your gifts with people.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyways, everything you said, I'm so passionate about that piece and how much of a spiritual journey entrepreneurship is, because it will stretch you.
Yeah. There's always when you said you were talking about like if you're, you can only change what you can change, right? And that was something that I learned, I guess now about 4 years ago at this point. I I was on a job. I'd been on that job for 12, maybe years at that point. And the the work that I was doing, I enjoyed, but the environment and the place was so negative at times. And I always was trying to like, how can I make this place better? How can I make this place better? How can I do this? How can I do that? And I was putting so much of my time and my energy in trying to do that. And I don't know, one day the light bulb, like I've been getting job offers for things that I hadn't even applied for. And but I kept turning them down because I was like, no, there's still so much more that I can do here to change this place. And then like one day it just hit me like, maybe it's not the place that needs to change. Maybe you need to move on. Maybe that's the change that needs to happen. Maybe where you're currently at, you cannot um, you can't change these outside external factors. They kind of are who they are, right? They're doing what they're doing. Your gifts, which is what the words say, will make room for you. And like that helped me make the decision to take the leap and change my path. And in doing that, like the freedom, the way I'm able to move, the way I'm able to take the time to do the things that I enjoy doing, because I realized like I can't focus on trying to change everything and everybody. And it was draining, not just of my intellectual capacity, like physically. And, it was also draining me. But the realization is like sometimes you have to remove yourself from situations because it's not meant for you to change it.
Have you ever seen the study that they did with the shark in the fish tank? And the shark will only grow to the size of the tank that it's
Yes.
in?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes your environment is just, you outgrow it.
Hmm.
And so in order for you, but you're like squeezed in the box of the environment, right? So
Yeah.
in order for you to continue growing, you need to change it.
You got to change it. And
You got
sometimes
to
that's what
change it.
change is. It's moving on. Like sometimes that is what change. And that's what I had to realize. And it's helped me to grow. Like I have grown now. I stepped into a more senior leadership role and it's helped me to grow immensely in just who I am and my abilities that were already there, but I could not let them flourish in the previous environment. And so sometimes that's what I had to come, I now understand that sometimes it's not the environment that you need to change. Sometimes you need to change where you're at. Maybe you need to do something, move something, grow something, be something different than where you're at. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So with that being said, for the mama who feel stuck, right? Maybe they feel stuck in their environment. Maybe they feel like God has really placed something on their heart and they know that they have a certain skill set and they know that they're supposed to share it in some capacity to help make an impact with others, but they feel stuck. They feel like they don't have the time. They feel like they're juggling too many plates. What piece of advice would you give that mom?
um, first thing, I don't know why I'm getting teary eyed. But like first thing first, like just don't give up. Right. It is, you know, um, somebody once told me because I happen to be that mom that like I want to be and do, and I don't want to miss a moment. I don't want to, I don't want to forget anything. I just, I want to be anything and everything that I can be to my family. And what they said to me was like, listen, one, they said you're doing a good job. Like you may not always feel like that, but your kids they're fed. You live in a decent home, right? Like, give yourself a pat on the back for where you're currently at. And it's not as long as it has been, right? And I think sometimes you just feel like you're so stuck in a moment and it's never going to end. And so you have to think back through the journey and appreciate even, even what may have felt like a setback. And so if I could encourage any mother is like, that was a moment in time. Don't let that moment keep you from moving forward because I think that that's what happens. And I've been guilty of that myself. A moment in time stagnated me. Not because I had to be stagnant and I couldn't move forward, but because my mindset said, nope, I just got to sit back. I'm not moving. And so if I could just like keep going, don't stop, recognize who you already, like who God has already ordained you to be. Like he did not place you in this earth, in this world to not reach greatness. And greatness is what you make it. Those are the words that I would tell somebody. I would tell them like just remember your why. Uh, and so I have a notepad where I write down my whys. And anytime I start to feel like I am not measuring up, I go back to my why and I check myself. And I think that level of accountability helps me because we all have moments where um, that whole fear, like the fear of that can be so crippling. And sometimes the fear is of success. And I definitely struggle with that at times. Like I'm scared to succeed because what does that mean? Like, especially when you've never seen others succeed in environments and it's not an environment that you're used to, you don't even know what that feels like, or you don't even have a visual representation of it. That is scary. But fear is not something that you have to um, sit with. You should start to learn how fear is just discomfort. But discomfort doesn't mean that you can't succeed. It means that to me, that there's something bubbling up on the inside of you that is trying to come forth and get out. And you got to learn like that uncomfortability is actually a means of elevation. Like when you start to feel uncomfortable, elevation is right there. Because like we talked about this, when you're stretching, it doesn't feel good, right? Even when you're like physically you're working out and you're stretching, what do? You're like, oh, this hurts. But then once it's over, you're like, oh, I feel so much better. So that moment of uncomfortability is what's going to lead to your elevation. And so like just one thing that I would say, don't give up. It's only a moment. Don't let fear cripple you. Learn how to allow fear to propel you.
That's incredible. Thank you so much, Veronica.
Absolutely.
You are an inspiration, and I feel like we could probably sit here and talk for 3 more hours and
Yeah.
just amazing inspirational things would come out of it. So I really, really appreciate you being here. I'm so grateful to be connected with you. And some exciting news. We chatted with this just before we started about this right before we started recording. If you're not in the Facebook community, the link will be in the description. Make sure that you join because Veronica has agreed to do a couple of segments about tax planning and business write-offs that we'll do live in the Facebook group. And I know people have a lot of questions about that. And I think especially for new entrepreneurs, sometimes they're scared to like reach out and ask questions from professionals. So we're going to have those conversations. So we'll be posting that soon. And if you guys enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. To connect with Veronica, her social media links and her business website will also be in the description. And Veronica, thank you again. This
Thank
conversation was
you, Erica.
amazing.
I've enjoyed this so much. Like it's been great to just pour out like that. And so I thank you for the opportunity. And I'm looking forward to connecting with your community very shortly.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.